So we are back again this week. We're doing another 3-2-1 assignment in DCM. This week we get to pick a different episode of Letters to the Exiles, again with Evan. So this will be the same drill as before. Talk about 3 things that I wasn't aware of, 2 things that got reinforced with me, and then answer some final question, do a little bit of last thoughts on it. So this will be similar to what we did before. I ended up deciding to tackle the episode having to do with justice and order. So with that being said, I'm going to jump straight into it. First thing I did know, or at least had never thought about it this way, is talking about the difference between maintaining and manufacturing order. They used an analogy. A gardener does not manufacture order. He simply maintains it. A gardener does not force plants to grow. Plants grow on their own. What he does is he cultivates a proper environment, a proper space for the plants to grow. He arranges them in a way that they are more likely to grow, but he cannot simply force them to grow. He doesn't manufacture that order. He simply creates a good environment to maintain order that's already there. That was a particularly interesting mindset to me regarding gardening, because gardening interests me, as my uncle is a world-renowned horticulturist, writes a lot of books, a lot of articles, very famous for his work in the field of agriculture. And I always thought, you always think about it in a way that he's better at growing plants, but in reality, he's an expert on setting up the conditions to grow those plants, and he's an expert on all the things that go into creating proper environments to grow plants. He's not making the plants grow, and so to me, that was a really interesting way to think about that. The next thing that I did not know is actually a story that I'd never heard before. It was actually one of the best stories and one of the most meaningful tales that I think I might have ever seen. It was probably, in my opinion, the highlight of watching the video to me is the story of the thief who is cold and he's begging and he's hungry and he's a stranger. And he goes around town and he's trying to find a place to stay for the night, and people recognize him as, the town thief. People are turning him away, and finally he seeks refuge. At the last door, he finds refuge with the town priest, the town pastor, the holy man of the city. And he welcomes him in with opening arms, just as Jesus would do. And the thief subsequently turns around and during that night steals everything that the priest owns. He ransacks the place and basically takes everything that's valuable, all except the candlesticks. And at that point, most people, including myself, would say, why did I do that? That was a mistake. I shouldn't have let the guy in the house. Shouldn't have offered him hospitality. This is what I get for showing him hospitality. But the priest doesn't react in this way, because the town police, military, whatever, brings the thief back the next morning and says, hey sir, this man just stole everything you own, and he's claiming that you gave it to him. Did you agree to that? And the priest responds, yes, I did give it to him. In fact, he forgot the last part of his gift, which is these candlesticks, the most valuable thing that the priest owned. And the thief is taken aback at this. They take the handcuffs off him, the police leave, and the thief's standing there like, what in the world? I cannot believe that just happened. And the priest basically says, this is the grace that Jesus Christ has given to everyone that I've shown you. Now take what I've shown you, and that I've saved your life from prison, and live a life worthy of God. And I just thought that was a cool story. It's something that we can all strive to react in that way to strangers and to the thieves among us, because I know I personally hate a thief. I'm constantly dealing with selling and buying and trading things on Craigslist. That's something that I do, and I can't imagine someone stealing a lot of the. I'm constantly dealing in possessions, and there's nothing worse to me than a thief. When a thief comes and steals my stuff, I couldn't imagine reacting in the way that the priest did in this story. But it really is eye-opening as to what Jesus would have done and as to what we're called to do as Christians. And so I thought that was a really interesting story that I'd never heard before. So the third thing that I took from this video that I did not know has to do with dignity. And that is that you don't give someone dignity. You simply affirm it. It's a common saying, don't let someone take your dignity. When you've let them take in your dignity, you've failed, or, just people talk about taking someone's dignity a lot. Oh, that man's had his dignity taken away from him, as if it's something that can be taken away and given freely. And in reality, your dignity is affirmed. Everyone has their dignity. And it's when you love on someone and you're saying, I honor you, and you're saying you are significant, you can affirm their dignity, but you can't take it away, just like you can't give it to someone. You simply can help a brother, show them that they are significant, they are loved, and therefore they do have dignity. And that comes into play with people you know, as well as with strangers, talking about hospitality in this video towards strangers. So one of the things I took from this video that maybe I already knew, but was reinforced, and this was basically just something that was worded differently to me, was that a referee in a game, he's not trying to create order so much as he's trying to maintain order. A referee cannot establish order. You talk about once a referee has let a game get out of his control, the game is lost. It's you can't have a referee that lets the game get out of his control. And in reality, he's not trying to control the game. He's simply trying to maintain the order of the game. Because when a ref tries to start controlling the game, he starts trying to get way too controlling. That's the most boring thing in sports, is a managed game. And that goes back to the first point that I talked about with the gardener. Gardeners don't create order, they maintain it. And a successful gardener is simply maintaining order, just in the same way that a successful referee maintains order. He's not creating it, he doesn't control it, he doesn't manufacture it, he maintains. And that brings me right into the second thing that I already knew, but was really reinforced by this video and talked about in a different way, was one cannot force order, and when you try to force order, you get in trouble. We keep talking about you maintain order, you don't force it. What happens when you force it, a good analogy for that they used, is that a gardener, it's like a gardener who uses too much artificial fertilizer. When you use too much artificial fertilizer, you are going to kill the plants. You're doing too much. You're being over-controlling. And just like we said, successful gardeners, they maintain the order, they create the environment for success, but they allow the plants to grow on their own, nourishing them, sustaining them, they're helping them along. They create great opportunities for the plants, but they are not forcing it. And when you start trying to force it, that's like the fertilizer. There's too much fertilizer. In the same way in the world, when you try to create order, you try to manufacture it, bad things happen. So for my final thoughts on the video, I'm going to go back to the marionette story that I talked about, which is the story that I referenced earlier about the thief who was shown grace and mercy. So the question is, what does that story tell us about grace and mercy to strangers? And the answer to that is that we as people have to realize that showing grace and mercy, just as this priest did for this thief, it could change their life forever. That thief's life was changed forever in the blink of an eye, just because the priest was kind enough, had it in his heart, and lived in the way that Jesus did. And that thief's life was changed forever. So in the same way, we have to realize that showing that grace and that mercy and that hospitality to strangers, it's the key to order in the world, it's the key to justice, and it very well could change someone's life forever. And showing them that grace and mercy is synonymous to the grace and mercy that Jesus showed every single one of us. And maybe, just maybe, you showing grace and mercy just like the priest did to someone might open the door for you to talk to them about the grace and mercy that's been shown to them in Jesus Christ. They may not know Christ, and that might be the doorway to open it up. In fact, I know it's the doorway to open it up. So, these have been my thoughts on Letters to the Exiles pertaining to order. I highly recommend the series to anyone that wants to watch it. It's a fantastic series, and appreciate the opportunity again to make a video for class. Hope this has maybe stirred some thought in anybody else viewing this video, and have a good day.